So in station 3, we're asked to determine the difference between all of the specifics of a sacrum. So here we've got the sacrum, and it refers to only this section where in between my hands, because this bottom section here is the coccyx. So if we were asked, for example, how many fused bones make up the sacrum, it'd be referring to just the 5 fused bones which make up the sacrum. So 5 fused bones make up a sacrum, and the following 4 make up the coccyx. If a question were asked, like, name the bones that articulate with the sacrum, what it's asking is how many bones, or what are the names of the bones that in some way articulate or join with the sacrum. So below would be the coccyx. Either side, remembering we've got these articulating surfaces for the coxal bones or hip bones, and we've got something coming in the top as well, and that is, of course, the lumbar vertebrae, which is L5, so the last of the lumbar vertebrae. So the sacrum is in the middle of coccyx, L5, and the 2 coxal bones coming in on the outside. Why do we even have this coccyx at the bottom? Well, there's a lot of different theories on the coccyx. So is it like a remnants from a tail, or some kind of evolutionary change that we've taken place? It really doesn't have a huge purpose. Some believe that really it just plays a role in that posterior protection to protect the organs and such which are inside the sacrum or the pelvic girdle. So look at all these structures, but you've got lumps all up the middle, you've got these ridges on the side, there's really lumps and bumps and processes all over this sacrum, and we're asked to identify the difference between them all. The easiest way to think of a sacrum really is looking at a vertebrae, because if we remember what a sacrum is, it's just 5 fused together vertebrae. That means that here I've just attached L5, which is the last of the lumbar, and L4 on top of that. And this is how they would sort of sit into the scheme of things there. Everything on these in some way is reflected here because it's from the vertebrae to which the sacrum came from. So we'll start with this structure, this sort of basically stripe down the middle. That's called the medial sacral crest. If asked where does this come from, or in some way define it, you would say that it really is just a remnants of these fused together spinous processes. So here's the spinous process out the back of the lumbar, another one here, and you can see the lumps or the remnants where those spinous processes would continue on down, making this sort of ridge structure in the middle of the sacrum. So that's the medial sacral crest. Now remembering if we fuse together the lumbar vertebrae, in that case we'd also be fusing together the outsides here of the transverse process. So this ridge down the bottom here, also called the lateral sacral crest, is remnants of where you're fusing together all these transverse processes in the outside. So if these bones are close together and they're not moving, you'll end up with a ridge lining all the way down, which creates the lateral sacral crest. An interesting one is these sacral foramina, or these holes which line all up and down the sacrum. We know what they're used for. They blood vessels and nerves run in and out of them, but how are they created in the first place? Well, one way of looking at the sacral foramina's creation is if we fuse together the lateral borders of the transverse process, I'll sort of do that with my finger there, we can see that it's kind of got like a hole left in between the transverse process of the vertebrae. So by fusing the edges together, number 1, it creates a lateral sacral crest, and number 2, it kind of leaves a gap between each of the transverse process, which continues down, creating this sacral foramina, or mini-foramen. And the final one is the sacral canal, which is a canal which runs right down the middle of the sacrum. Can't see it in here, this is like a filled-in plastic model, but it would be a canal that runs straight down that point where the bottom of the spinal cord pops out. Well, where that sacral canal comes from is it's fused together vertebral foramen. So here you've got the vertebral foramen hole running straight down the middle of the vertebrae, and that would just continue on straight down through the sacrum, creating a sacral canal.